Secretary Clinton is simply looking for somebody to blame. Couldn't be her fault, right? Looking for someone to blame, wants to blame the Russians for losing the election. I'm here to tell you that the biggest story of last week was that it was identified that the source of the leaks of the DNC emails was to a third party who then gave it to WikiLeaks. It was not from the Russians. It was from a DNC staffer, Seth Rich, the private investigator hired by the family, Mr. Wheeler, said on a local news station, on national news, that he was told by Washington police that they were ordered to stand down on the investigation and could not go further. It is clear that Mr. Wheeler said to a local station in Washington, D.C., and to national news that the evidence is on Seth Rich's laptop that's in either the possession of the Washington Police Department or the FBI. They each are doing this. It's somewhere, but that this young man is the source of all the email leaks that went to WikiLeaks. Wow. It's not the Russians. That was the biggest story, and it was buried by the mainstream media. I say, shame on you, mainstream media, shame on you for not investigating the murder of Seth Rich, a 27-year-old young DNC staffer, idealist, doing his job, and he leaked those emails because of corruption, whatever his motives were, that he saw. And you are ignoring, and I say shame on you, media, for not investigating this young man's murder and letting the D.C. police call it a burglary when his watch was not stolen, his phone was not stolen, his wallet was not stolen. He was found dead, assassinated in the street. And media, you're not doing your job. You should be embarrassed and ashamed of yourself for not investigating the murder of Seth Rich.
This is a man they saying was robbed.
Yes.
And yet nothing was gone. That's what you're telling me?
Within 1 hour of this being made public, the media releases, in 57 minutes, with less than an hour, they release a story of President Trump releasing classified information to the Russian diplomats in the Oval Office. There's only 3 or 4 people in the Oval Office. And all of a sudden, boom, a big distraction gets released to get everybody off the news, the big news, of this young man being identified as the source of all those emails, not a hack by the Russians. And they do this big story within an hour to get all the focus back on some pretend malfeasance of the president. That's fake news. They created a story to get everybody focused on something else. It's called misdirection. And again, I say, shame on you, national media. You're not doing your job. You're corrupt, and you're following the dictates of your own agenda instead of producing the news. It's very clear the creation of that special counsel being appointed had no basis in fact, should never have been appointed. The Russians did not hack the DNC. They didn't cause any material difference in the election. Where is the evidence? It's just not there. And instead, I pray that some media somewhere will ask the question, why was that release taking place and all the air taken out of the room with regard to this young man's being the source of the WikiLeaks emails that were released? Why is that not a story? Because it absolutely defangs and undermines the narrative that it was the Russians. It wasn't the Russians that hacked the DNC. There's zero evidence that they hacked the DNC. So to illuminate that that doesn't exist, they buried the story that it was young Seth Rich, and he was the source. And that's not being reported, and the American people don't have the news that they ought to have. I pray some brave reporters. We've talked about in this program about pastors getting brave. I pray some of you reporters that are Christians will get brave.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.